The closing session will now begin. Recitation of the Holy Quran by Zubair Abdullah Sahib of Philadelphia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما كان قول المؤمنين إذا دعوا إلى الله ورسوله ليحكم بينهم أن يقولوا سمعنا وأطعنا وأولئك هم المفلحون. ومن يطع الله ورسوله ويخشى الله ويتقه فأولئك هم الفائزون. وأقسموا بالله جهد أيمانهم لئن أمرتهم ليخرجن قل لا تقسموا طاعة معروفة إن الله خبير بما تعملون.
English translation by Junaid Imran Sahib of Connecticut.
Assalamu alaikum. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah the Gracious, the Merciful. The response of the believers when they are called to Allah and His Messenger in order that He may judge between them is only that they say, "We hear and we obey," and it is they who will prosper. And whoso obeys Allah and His Messenger and fears Allah and takes Him as a shield for protection, it is they who will be successful. And they swear by Allah their strongest oaths that, if thou command them, they will surely go forth. Say, swear not. What is required is actual obedience in what is right. Surely Allah is well aware of what you do. Jazak.
The Urdu translation by Labid Ahmed Sahib of Atlanta.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह। अभी आपके सामने सूरह नूर की आयत नंबर 52 ta 54 की तिलावत की गई है। इन आयात का उर्दू तर्जमा बयान फरमूदा हज़रत खलीफतुल मसीह राबे रहमहुल्लाह पेश खिदमत है। पनाह मांगता हूँ अल्लाह की ददकारे हुए शैतान से, अल्लाह के नाम के साथ जो बेइंतहा रहम करने वाला, बिन मांगे देने वाला और बार बार रहम करने वाला है। मोमिनों का कौल जब उन्हें अल्लाह और इसके रसूल की तरफ बुलाया जाता है ताकि वो इनके दरमियान फ़ैसला करे, महज़ ये होता है कि हमने सुना और इताअत की, और यही हैं जो मुराद पा जाने वाले हैं। और जो अल्लाह और उसके रसूल की इताअत करे और अल्लाह से डरे और उसका तक़वा इख्तियार करे, तो यही हैं जो कामयाब होने वाले हैं। और उन्होंने अल्लाह की पुख्ता कस्में खाईं कि अगर तू उन्हें हुक्म दे तो वो ज़रूर निकल खड़े होंगे। तू कह दे कस्में ना खाओ, दस्तूर के मुताबिक इताअत करो, यकीनन अल्लाह जो तुम करते हो उससे हमेशा बाखबर रहता है। जज़ाकल्लाह।
Now it will be the Khudam al-Ahmadiyya pledge to be led by Sadr Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya.
अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीक लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीक लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीक लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah. He is one and has no partner. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and messenger. I solemnly pledge that I shall always be ready to sacrifice my life, wealth, time, and honor for the sake of my faith, country, and nation. Likewise, I shall be ready to offer any sacrifice for guarding the institution of Khilafat-e Ahmadiyya. Moreover, I shall deem it essential to abide by any ma'roof decision made by Khalifatul Masih, inshallah. Please be seated.
नारे तकबीर, नारे तकबीर। हज़रत मोहम्मद मुस्तफ़ा गुलाम अहमद की इस्लाम अहमदियत, खिलाफत अहमदिया, खिलाफत अहमदिया, इन्नी माँ का नारे takbir.
Now an Urdu poem by Adnan Nasir Sahib of North Virginia.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह। कलाम हज़रत मसीह माऊद अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम। जो खाक में मिले उसे मिलता है आशना। ऐ आज़माने वाले ये नुस्खा भी आज़मा। ऐ आज़माने वाले ये नुस्खा भी आज़मा। आशिक जो है वो यार को मर मर के पाते हैं। जब मर गए तो उसकी तरफ खींचे जाते हैं। जब मर गए तो उसकी तरफ खींचे जाते हैं। जिंदा वही है जो के खुदा के करीब हैं। मकबूल बन के उसके अजीज़ो हबीब हैं। मकबूल बन के उसके अजीज़ो हबीब हैं।
नारे तकबीर। हजरत मोहम्मद मुस्तफ़ा गुलाम अहमद की नारे तकबीर।
तकवा यही है यारो के नख़वत को छोड़ दो। किब्रो गुरूर बुख्ल की आदत को छोड़ दो। किब्रो गुरूर बुख्ल की आदत को छोड़ दो। जज़ाक।
The translation will be rendered by Ibrima Kale Sahib of Dallas.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Those who blend with dust find their true friend. O testers of souls, this secret I command. Lovers who seek their beloved's embrace, in death they are drowned to their scarce space. Only the living who near God reside are cherished and loved. In His grace they abide. True piety, friends, is to let go of pride to abandon conceit and in kindness confide.
Now for the Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, may Allah be pleased with him, award, Muhtamim Tarbiyat No Mubayin Muhammad Iqbal Sahib will make an announcement.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The Mufti Muhammad Sadiq Award is awarded to those members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA who stand out with a lifetime of selfless service of Islam Ahmadiyyat in the United States with the spirit of Hazrat Mufti Muhammad Sadiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. They symbolize the values of service and sacrifice and that are hallmarks of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. It is with great honor that I share that Haji Nuruddin Al-Hadith Sahib of Washington, D.C. Jamaat is being recognized this year for this distinguished award. His life has been marked by dedicated service to his country, community, and faith. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he graduated from the Pittsburgh public school system before starting a distinguished 20-year career in the U.S. Air Force. His military assignments took him across the globe, including Guam, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, and the United States. During his service, he embraced Islam Ahmadiyya in 1972 at the Fazl Mosque in Washington, D.C., performed his first Hajj, and shortly thereafter married Haja Nusrat Begum Saiba. After that, he retired from the military in 1976. Nuruddin Sahib served as the Tabligh Secretary for the Washington, D.C. Jamaat for several years and has been a lifelong Da'i inviting people to Islam Ahmadiyyat in the U.S. and abroad. Another way he embodies the spirit of Sadiq is through the service of humanity, which led him to volunteer with Humanity First USA, where he contributed to disaster release operations in Haiti, Bangladesh, Peru, Kansas, and Florida. He also played a key role in developing operational procedures for field-based camps of the Humanity First Manual. Additionally, Nuruddin Sahib dedicated over 30 years to civil service with the Smithsonian and the National Gallery of Art, where he rose through the ranks as a special police officer, eventually achieving the commission rank of commander. His lifetime of service to the Jamaat, his country, and humanity in general is an inspiration for us all to emulate in our lives. Now I invite Haji Nuruddin Al-Hadith Sahib to come up to the stage to receive the award and say a few words to the Majlis.
नारे तकबीर गुलाम अहमद की जमात अहमदिया यूएसए नारे तकबीर
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises be to Allah for achievement opportunities in real endeavors. I humbly accept the award today for achievements, and I would like to digress for a moment to share the glory with my beloved wife, the late Musia Haja Nusrat Begum Al-Hadith, my beloved, my life partner, my friend. Her provision of support throughout some 50-odd years of our marriage life together, her support given to me enabled me to have lifetime achievements. Her motivation, her inspiration, and all that it encompasses. Her love of Jamaat, her love of Ahmadiyyat, all have inspired me. I have been honored and blessed to serve my country here and abroad, humanity in general, life experiences, and service to Almighty God. I would say that a lighter side of my experience and some of the unofficial duties that I have performed to allow me to achieve purpose. My late departed wife was Sadar Lajna for about 10 years in Washington, D.C. And she was president. And I'm very happy to say that I was similar and comparable to first gentleman to a presidency. I had a lot of duties in assisting her in her job and her assistance. Oh, from running errands and licking envelopes and buying stamps and washing dishes and doing a lot of various and sundry things to help my late wife in her duties. I'm very proud and honored. I consider achievements there with much gratitude. I've been blessed and honored to serve and travel throughout the world and in this country during 3 caliphats. During the Khalifa of Khalifatul Musa Salis, our 3rd Khalifa, Khalifatul Rabi, our 4th Khalifa, and present Khalifatul Hamas. My relationship to them and to this community and Jamaat allow me to have a great number of achievements. I thank you and I'm honored for this word. In the sake of brevity, I take my leave. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Now the Khidmat-e-Khalq Award to be announced by Muhtamim Khidmat-e-Khalq Adil Malik Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So this year, Majlis Khudam Ahmadiyya was given a task by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih to raise money on behalf of disaster relief efforts in Gaza. And these awards are to recognize the majalis that have gone above and beyond in raising funds. So collectively, we have been able to raise about $125,000. And the following are the top 3 majalis that contributed to that target. And I will ask local Qaideen to receive these awards, except for North Jersey, which I'll get to. So the third place, the third position, goes to North Jersey Majlis, which was the 3rd ranked Majlis in fundraising for the Gaza relief efforts, achieving 207% of its target in raising funds, nearly $7,000. So in this case, requesting Regional Nazim Saab, Umair Khan, Khidmat Khalq to receive the award. Jazakallah. In second place is Bay Point Majlis, which was able to raise 361% of its target and nearly $7,000. So requesting local guide Bay Point Majlis to receive this award. I think Guide Saab mentioned Regional Guide Saab may be receiving the award on his behalf of Northwest. Jazakallah.
नारे तकबीर मजलिस खुदामुल अहमदिया बे पॉइंट नारे तकबीर.
And the number one ranked Majlis was Silicon Valley Majlis, which was able to raise 500% of its target. These were all assigned targets of over $17,000. So requesting local guide Saab, Usman Saab from Silicon Valley to receive this award.
मजलिस खुदामुल अहमदिया सिलिकॉन नारे तकबीर.
And finally, lastly, we are also recognizing the top region for fundraising, which was the Northwest region, which collectively raised nearly 250% of its assigned target. So again, requesting Guide Saab Northwest to receive this award. Jazakallah. Jazakallah. That concludes the Khidmat Khalq Awards.
Now the Ijtema report by Nazim Ala Ijtema, Ihtisham Najib Chaudhry Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Respected Sayyid Amir Safir Saab, respected Sir Saab Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya USA, by the grace and mercy of Allah the Almighty, Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya and Majlis Atfalul Ahmadiyya USA held the 54th National Ijtema on October 11th to 13th, 2024 at Baitur Rahman Mosque in Silver Spring, Maryland. It is only by the sheer grace and mercy of Allah the Almighty and through the prayers of Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis, Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, that the Ijtema has now reached its conclusion. The following is a brief report on the Ijtema and its activities. The Ijtema dates and setup were coordinated and collaborated with Lajna Imayallah and Majlis Ansarullah, and we would first like to express our gratitude to both of these auxiliaries for their support and coordination. The planning of the National Ijtema began with the approval of the National Ijtema Committee by respected Sadr Sahib Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya USA on November 29th, 2023. Numerous meetings were held and months of planning were executed to hold the National Ijtema. The Ijtema team had the great honor and fortune to seek guidance directly from Hazur Anwar Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz about the National Ijtema in a Daftari Mulaqat in February of this year. Beloved Hazur's guidance and prayers are the reason for any and all improvements this year. The Ijtema admin team consisted of 13 Naib Nazimin Ala, 95 Nazimin, and hundreds of volunteers. The Ijtema program committee was led by respected Naib Sadr Intisar Mali Saab and consisted of regional Qaideen and many National Amla members. We are extremely grateful and humbled, and we would like to express our gratitude to Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz, for appointing and sending his representative, Sayyid Amir Safir Saab, for the 2024 National Ijtema. Some of the highlights of this year's Ijtema were the 5 sessions held with respected Sayyid Amir Safir Sahib, sessions held at the MKA Hub stage with the respected elders of Jamaat, multiple Urdu programs held for new immigrants. This year, by the grace and mercy of Allah the Almighty, 11 Talim competitions were held, 8 sports competitions were held. The MKA Hub introduced new cuisines and activities that were well received by all. I'll now present the attendance report. Respected Sayyid Saab, respected Sayyid Amir Saab, I'll first present the 2023 Ijtema attendance numbers, and then I'll present this year's numbers. In the 2023 National Ijtema, last year's National Ijtema, the attendance was 761 khudam and 311 atfal. Including guests, the total attendance was 1,188. Solely by the grace and mercy of Allah the Almighty and through the prayers of Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, this year's National Ijtema attendance is 438 atfal, which is an increase of 127, 1,140 khudam, which is an increase of 379, and 371 guests. By the grace and mercy of Allah the Almighty, this year's National Ijtema attendance is 1,949, which is an increase of 761 and a 64% increase from last year.
Nare Takbir! Nare Takbir! Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya USA! Nare Takbir!
There were many shortcomings and weaknesses in our planning committee, but numerous times Allah the Almighty covered them. I would like to offer gratitude to Allah the Almighty that He enabled us to hold this event successfully. It is without a doubt due to the prayers and guidance of Hazur Anwar, Izzat Allah bin Nasr Aziz. We would like to thank respected Sayyid Amir Safir Saab for his valuable time, for sharing inspiring anecdotes and guidances from Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. I would like to thank respected Sadr Sahib Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya USA for his continued guidance and support. I offer gratitude to the entire planning committee who worked very hard across the past few months for planning and executing the event. We would also like to thank all of the volunteers who, under the leadership of their Naib Nazmin Allah, worked hard to execute the event. We humbly seek forgiveness from all of the attendees for our many shortcomings. May Allah the Almighty enable us to fulfill the wishes and expectations of Sayyidina Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, and may He enable us to serve the blessed Jamaat of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. Jazakallah.
Nare Takbir! Khilafat-e Ahmadiyya! Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya! Inni Maka! Hazrat Amirul Mu'mineen, Nare Takbir.
Now the Talim Awards to be announced by Muhtamim Talim Taimur Khan Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum. At this time, we're going to announce the winners of the Talim competitions. And as you come to receive your award, please come from my right side. Jazakallah. We're going to begin with the Tilawat. Third place is Bilal Raja Saab from North Virginia. Second place is Arib Amjad Saab from Silicon Valley. And first place for Tilawat is Zubair Abdullah Saab from Philadelphia. Jazakallah. Next is Nazam. Third place is Saqib Mushtaq from Houston. Second place for Nazam is Naveed Tariq from Atlanta. And first place for Nazam is Adnan Nasir from North Virginia. Next is Azan. Third place for Azan is Abdus Samad from Portland. Second place for Azan is Bilal Raja from North Virginia. And first place for Azan is Shahzad Kashif from Bronx. All right, we'll move on to impromptu English. Third place is Ojesh Bashwasa from Willingsboro. Second place is Umar Ahmed from RTP. And first place for impromptu English is Aman Ahmed from Brooklyn. For impromptu Urdu, third place is Azaz Malisa from Makami. Second place is Abdus Samad from Portland. And first place is Talha Ahmed from New York Metro for impromptu Urdu.
Barakallahu lakum. Barakallahu lakum.
Moving on to English prepared speech. Third place is Nasser Bokeh Boateng from Silicon Valley. Second place for English prepared speech is Bilal Raja from North Virginia. And first place for English speech is Nasruddin Ahmed Tariq from Makami.
Barakallahu lakum. Barakallahu lakum.
Moving on to Urdu prepared speech. Third place is Ahsan Ullah from Tucson.
Barakallahu lakum.
Second place for Urdu prepared speech is Zahir Ahmed from Detroit. And first place for Urdu prepared speech is Bilal Raja from North Virginia.
Barakallahu lakum.
Second place for Urdu. Zishan, Detroit.
Barakallahu lakum.
Third place for Urdu speech. Hassan Ullah.
Barakallahu lakum. Barakallahu lakum.
Good. For Hifz al-Quran,
Barakallahu lakum.
third place is Yasser Chima from Central Jersey. Second place for Hifz al-Quran is Aman Ahmed from Brooklyn. And first place for Hifz al-Quran is Bilal Raja from North Virginia.
Barakallahu lakum. Barakallahu lakum.
Moving to Hifz Adiyah,
Barakallahu lakum.
third place is Mudassar Ahmed from Central Jersey. Second place is Aman Ahmed from Brooklyn. And first place is Bilal Raja from North Virginia.
Barakallahu lakum.
Moving to Hifz al-Hadith,
Barakallahu lakum.
third place is Ayun Butt from Fort Worth. Second place is Bilal Raja from North Virginia. And first place is Aman Ahmed from Brooklyn.
Barakallahu lakum.
So this year, the Talim department had an opportunity to work with Revere Religion team for an existence project competition, which the ask was to produce a 60-second video answering the question, why does God exist? And from that competition, the winner is Ramiz Butt for the existence project competition. Okay. We'll reach out to this guy to give him the award. For the Voice of Kadam English Poem Competition, Azair Ahmed from Detroit. Okay. We'll be sure to give his award as well. For the Voice of Kadam General Competition is Said Ovez from Chicago.
Barakallahu lakum.
Okay, and then the second to last award is we held our first Smartest Kadam competition this year, and the first place winner is Aman Ahmed from Brooklyn for Smartest Kadam.
Barakallahu lakum.
And as a formal recognition, we wanted to announce by 1 point the Qadam of the Talim competition is Bilal Raja Saab from North Virginia. So I just want to recognize him as a formal recognition. Jazakallah.
Now the sports awards to be announced by Mohtamim Seto Jismani.
Assalamu alaikum. For the team competitions, just a reminder, please send one representative from the team up for the award, a team captain or a representative. But to start with individual competitions in ping pong, in third place we have Kamar Khan. In second place, we have Junaid Umran. And in first place, we have Ghulam Ahmed Khan.
Barakallahu lakum. Barakallahu lakum.
For chess, in third place, we have Faizan Verk.
Barakallahu lakum.
In second place, Wadud Bati. And first place, Farhan Wajahat.
Barakallahu lakum.
For team competitions, in cricket, the runners-up in second place is Baltimore.
Barakallahu lakum.
In first place, we have South Virginia. Cricket. Yeah, second place goes to Baltimore, they're coming out now, and then first is South Virginia after.
Barakallahu lakum.
Next up will be
Barakallahu lakum.
volleyball. In volleyball, runner-up in second place, Baltimore. First place in volleyball, Murabian.
Barakallahu lakum.
In soccer, runner-up in second place, golf. And in first place, Mukami. In flag football competition, the runners-up in second place is Mukami.
Barakallahu lakum.
And first place, Virginia.
Barakallahu lakum.
In basketball, runners-up in second place, Virginia. And first place, New York. Jazakallah.
Barakallahu lakum.
Now we will have an address by respected Naib Amir Sahib, USA, Dr. Fahim Yunus Qureshi Sahib.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. As you reflect on the theme of this Ijtema, fulfilling our pledges, many things may come to your mind. Something came to my mind which was more than 30 years ago. From our med school, about a mile away, there was a mall where most of the guys would go to buy their clothing. Panorama Center, if you're from Lahore, you know what I'm talking about. I vividly remember I took the steps down, the shops were in the basement, and I wanted to buy a jeans. I think I was about 20 years old. The first shop on my right happened to have the jeans I was looking for, the pair of jeans. But the price was too high. It was very common in Pakistan to haggle the price. So I tried to haggle, I tried to say, reduce the price. And the man said, my product is the best. You can go search the market, but no compromise on the price. When you're 20 years old, you feel like you can do anything. So I said, no problem, I'll go and search the market. So I kept on looking into the market, and I'll come back to what I found, because I think this story will help you understand the why. I want to break down fulfilling our pledges into 3 parts. What is the what, the how, and why? Because I think most of you may not say it, but your mind, your heart intuitively asks, why? Why should I fulfill my pledge? So it's important to discuss that. So what, number 1. Step 1 is, we'll start with what, how, and then go to why. What is fulfilling our pledge? If you ask people around you that you feel, alhamdulillah, are fulfilling their pledge to Allah, to Khilafat, to this Jamaat, they'll tell you it was a stepwise journey. They'll tell you that it was not a yes, no. It was not one day you are bad, next day you're good. It doesn't work that way. It's not a binary where either you are fulfilling your pledge or you are forsaking your pledge. And on this journey, from 1 to 10, I don't know what 1 is, you get to decide that, but I can give you an example of what 10 looks like. When Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu passed away, Hazrat Umar became the Khalifa. Hazrat Umar went to Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq's servant, personal servant, and asked, what were some of the things that Abu Bakr used to do, but people are not aware of them? Because when you're 10, you don't do things for people to look at you. It's a secret love affair between you and Allah. Fulfilling your pledge becomes a joy. It gives you pleasure. You don't want to share that with anyone. So the servant said every morning, Hazrat Abu Bakr, who was Khalifa at that time, he would gather some food, take me with him, and then at a certain point I'll stop and Abu Bakr will go alone from there on. So I can take you, Amirul Momineen, to that point, but I don't know after that what happened. Hazrat Umar took some food, joined this man, and they got to that point. And the servant said there was probably these mountains, these caves, that's where Hazrat Abu Bakr went. Hazrat Umar went looking, and he found that in one of the caves there was a blind man who had lost his arms, his hands, and his feet. He's completely disabled, blind. So Hazrat Abu Bakr was daily feeding this man secretly. You don't get to that point without doing your namaz, without being true to God, without fulfilling the pledges to your family. Imagine how many pledges he's already fulfilled, that now he's at that level. So Hazrat Umar radiyallahu anhu takes some food and puts in the mouth of this blind man who can't see. And that is why Hazrat Abu Bakr goes, because he cannot just grab a meal and feed himself. The man starts chewing the food and then starts crying. He said, Abu Bakr was a good man. May Allah bless his soul. He was a righteous man. And Hazrat Umar is shocked. He's like, how did you know that Abu Bakr has passed away? You are someone in this cave, right? These are not the days of Twitter. There's no way for information to flow into a cave. And the man says, there are two things. One, Abu Bakr never missed a day. He never missed his promise. When nobody came for 2 or 3 days, it was impossible that Abu Bakr is alive and not fulfilling his pledge. So that break told me he's no more. And the food, because Abu Bakr also knew that I don't have teeth, I can't chew on my food. So he would soften the food before feeding me, and today the food was a little hard.
Nare Takbir! Nare Takbir! Mohsane Insaniyat! Mohsane Insaniyat! Khulafaye Rashideen! Khulafaye Rashideen! Nare Takbir!
If you listen to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih over the past 20 years, it's pretty obvious to me, it's pretty obvious to you, the path to that stature. You cannot get to be a 10 before you're a 9 or an 8 or a 2. And step 1 is salat. If you're not offering your 5 daily prayers, if you're not fulfilling your pledge to Allah the Almighty, it's a pipe dream. You're kidding yourself. These were the words Hazrat Khalifatul Masih just in 2024, a couple of weeks ago, Khudam al-Ahmadiyya Ijtema at UK, Hazur emphasized the point that our mosques are not as populated, our salat centers are not as populated. Fulfill your pledge to Allah. If you want to become that 10, the path goes through salat. You cannot bypass that. Number 2 is how. So if that's the tall order, we got to go from 1 to 10. How do we do that? Small, consistent steps. Don't think revolution. Doesn't happen overnight. There are two kinds of, my trust is, there are two kinds of people in this gathering right now. Some who will be so emotionally charged today that they'll make a long list and they'll say, I'm going to do these 10 things. And then there is someone who's just going to say, that's one little habit that I must change after this Ijtema. Our experience tells us it's the second guy who's going to ultimately proceed on that journey with his discipline, with his commitment. Emotion's going to fizzle away. Our Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, take up good deeds only as much as you are able, for the best deeds are those that are done regularly, even if they are few. That's the way to fulfill your pledge. This is the science of continuous improvement. It's fascinating. Everything Islam says, Azza sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, science comes 1400 years later and proves it. Continuous improvement will tell you that if you get better 1% every day, by the end of the year, those of you who are math gurus here, 1.01 to the power of 365, that number is over 37 times better. Just 1% a day. What does that mean? If you're able to read 10 pages of a book today, every day, and you just get better 1% every day, by the end of the year, you'll be able to read 370 pages of a book every day. If you're able to run 1 mile a day, and you just get better 1% every day, at the end of the year, you're going to be able to run 37 miles a day. A marathon is 26 miles. Running from here to US Capitol in Washington, D.C. is 26 miles. That's the power of small incremental changes. So I wanted to make sure that please walk away with the message of, I'm going to move in this journey one step forward. Wherever you are in your life, you're doing your namaz, start thinking of the tahajjud. You're going to Jummah, start going early. If you're doing financial sacrifice, advance to wasiyat. Whatever stage you are at, go 1% every day. Number 3, why? If the why is not clear, nobody wants to do anything. Why should you even care? I searched the market in Panorama Center. I found a lot of jeans. None of them were good. Either they were not the ones I was looking for, or the price was not. I just could not find the right thing. And it was embarrassing to go back, right? When you're 20 years old, you have ego, you have a lot of emotion. You don't want to give somebody the feeling that they won, you lost. And now it's an hour, 2 hours later, I also want to go home. I want to get to a decision. So I'm sort of walking around that first shop, sheepishly, sort of embarrassed deep down. Takes me 33 years to even talk about it. And finally, the man in the shop looked at me and he said, you can come in. The price is worth it. You're getting a good deal. He made it easy for me. And I can tell you it's not much different in the market of spirituality. Yes, sometimes there may be a trial. You may come across an office holder whose character, whose conduct, whose worship is not at that standard of Abu Bakr. You may feel hurt. You may feel dejected in the Jamaat of Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. Why is someone like this? That's possible. But at the end, if you want to become a champion in spirituality, like Khulafa or like Hazrat Abu Bakr was, like anybody who truly follows Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then consider these as trials. No pain, no gain. But the why is you want to become 10. You're not satisfied with 1. Your heart tells you, no matter what persona you project on Instagram, your heart tells you what number you're at. And you're not satisfied with that number. Even though you may spend a lot of time, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, your heart tells you it's fake. So if you want to advance, this is the best spiritual shop. We call Khilafat. This is the best spiritual university. I shouldn't call it a shop. Because this is where you will get that challenge that is required for you to continue to grow 1%. And the why is that you are going to need God. You want to become someone who loves God, that God loves, that you have a true, sincere relationship with Allah, because you're going to need Allah at every step of your life. Whether you're applying for a job, whether you have a test, whether you're going for a sports competition, whether it's your marriage, now you have children, now your child is sick, the list goes on. You're going to need that God at every step of your life. So, yes, Jamaat Ahmadiyya is going to challenge you. As respected Amir Saab reminds us repeatedly, when we were in Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, we had this joke going on. If you want to be easy, go be a Marine. If you want to be easy, go be a Marine. It's not going to be easy in Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. But inshallah, once you commit to that 1% improvement, then you will have that connection with Allah Ta'ala. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam says, "Aao logo, ke yahi noor-e khuda paoge." He's saying this is the place where you have the best product. You want the light of Allah? Come. This is where you will find it. Just remember, Allah Ta'ala does not need our pledges. Allah Ta'ala does not need our sacrifices. Khalifatul Masih does not need our pledges. Don't think we are doing any favor to anybody. We need to fulfill those pledges, because ultimately, this is the best spiritual university. And when you get worried or hung up or hurt by someone's character, or forget about hung up, when you are very impressed with someone, even that is not good enough. I want to make that point too. Sometimes people, I'm a fan of so-and-so in Jamaat. That's malignant, that's poisonous. You don't want to be a fan of so-and-so. You want to just be a fan of Khilafat. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wassalam said, "Peer parast na bano, balke peer bano." He said, don't be a saint worshipper, be a saint. So in Jamaat Ahmadiyya, there is no fan club. We are only fans of the one that Allah Ta'ala appoints, that Allah Ta'ala chooses. And then you're safe, you're secure. So in the end, the what is that you have to move from that 1 towards 10, continue on this journey of fulfilling your pledge. The how is 1%, small incremental changes, but don't go backwards. Don't slide backwards. 1% every day. And the why is because you need it. Allah doesn't need it. Allah's Khalifa doesn't need it. And once you do that, may Allah Ta'ala then fulfill all these prayers of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. That one short video clip, I wanted to leave you with the words of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. If Ijtema administration can please play that video clip. This was 2 years ago.
According to their Every Khadam, according to their age, knowledge and experience, can serve the cause of Islam and the mission of the Prophet Muhammad so long as they fulfill the rights of Allah's worship and fulfill the rights of His creation and be those who never forsake the truth and who fulfill their promises and pledges. May Allah the Almighty grant you all the ability to do so. May Allah the Almighty enable all of you to be shining stars of Ahmadiyyat and be those who come to fulfill the true purpose of their creation. May Allah continue to bless Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya in every aspect. Ameen. Now join me in silent prayer.
May Allah make you all, may Allah enable you all to become the shining stars of Ahmadiyyat.
नाराए तकबीर हजरत अमीरुल मोमिनीन हजरत खलीफतुल मसीह अल खामिस इन्नी माँ का नाराए तकबीर
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected Sadr Sahib, respected guests, and dear brother Khudam and Atfal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today, in my brief final message, I wanted to discuss a little bit. In the previous times I've had, I discussed some of the guidance Hazur gave on different topics. Today, I want to very briefly tell you about the Khalifa who we have the opportunity to see regularly, and a little more about his personality. The selfless Khalifa who defends the rights of every group of people more than anyone else in the world, whether it is the rights of citizens around the world when he speaks out, whether it is the rights of refugees, whether it's the rights of orphans or women or other people. It is beloved Hazur who selflessly stands up for these rights and displays his own incredible example. And today I would like to speak to you a little bit about this. So beginning from an international level, and then I want to take you down to the local level, to the family level, and give you an insight into some things you may know and some things you may not know. On an international level, from the beginning of his Khilafat, as many of you will be aware, the thing which Hazur was most concerned of on an international level was that the world and the countries were moving away from the existence of God and from acting with justice. So over 15 years ago, Hazur started alerting the world, saying that the way I can see things is that because people have forgotten their Creator, because people have forgotten to discharge their rights to other people, greed and avarice has taken over. Hazur delivered various speeches and peace conferences to start mentioning this back in the early 2010s. He then, as you know, in 2012 wrote letters to world leaders all across the world. Which other Muslim leader has spoken to all these leaders, including the President of China, of America, Obama at the time, of Iran, the Ayatollah, of African countries, and so on and so forth, of Canada, and explained to them, introduced to them first the message of Islam. And this is why often what happens is, even in America, when a Muslim leader comes to a senator, the senator asks, what do you want from us? Because they're expecting them to ask for something, some sort of funding or influence. Hazur is the only Muslim leader, the only one, who bravely has reached out to every single leader on an international level and explained to them that this is our duty. And if we don't do this, we will head towards, ultimately it will spiral and spiral. Countries will form blocs and alliances. And the problem today, Hazur said, as he said in many of his addresses and letters, is that the countries today have nuclear weapons. And Hazur said the nuclear weapons of, for example, as many of you know, the United States is the only country to have used an atomic weapon on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Hazur said that the smallest of atomic weapons today, by the smallest countries, are far more powerful than what was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Hazur said, so if we end up in a position where this keeps on continuing, the countries keep on fighting, the war escalates and spirals further and further, and ultimately nuclear weapons are used, it will result in such destruction that could never be imagined. And even those who survive, Hazur said, they will face life-changing consequences from generation to generation, because even the people who survived Hiroshima and Nagasaki, many of the future generations were born with mutations. So the thing is, you have to remember that Hazur doesn't claim to be a political leader. Hazur doesn't claim to be a geopolitical expert. Hazur is Khalifatul Masih. Yet how is Hazur saying this when barely anyone, or perhaps no one hardly, was saying this around the world? In fact, a US senator at the time poured scorn on what Hazur said. Senator or someone near government, and said that this is impossible. It's not going to happen. This is an outlandish claim. Only for that same person later, when many years later, now the world, as you can see, many of you know, if you open up the media today, World War III is trending on X. Now, many governments in the last few years have placed backup things to put their, Hazur mentioned this, even in America, Hazur mentioned that they're spending millions, rich people and others, to get underground bunkers. because they can see that something's possibly about to come. Hazur has mentioned that now many countries are speaking about, you can see in the media, they're openly speaking about that World War III is just around the horizon. You can see what's happening in the Middle East nowadays. But again, Hazur, guided by Allah, was passionately warning the world. And he was telling Ahmadis that you have to play your role. The world has forgotten God. You are the people following the promised Messiah, and therefore you must inform the world. You must bring them towards God and show them the true path. But even in other things, not just in international affairs. For example, I mentioned this briefly in the Itfal sermon. When Facebook first opened, some Ahmadis were surprised when Hazur initially gave a negative outlook. Hazur is very much in favor of use of social media, said many times that we should use. Just in a recent address you must have heard, Hazur said, let us go out and use social media properly, but use it with responsibility. Think what you are doing before you press the publish button. So Hazur is in favor of social media. Yet for Facebook, when it first came out, when everyone was using it, it was the next big thing. No one thought of any negative effects. Again, Hazur is not claiming to be a social media expert. He's Khalifatul Masih. Yet, Hazur says that Facebook is dangerous because the founder of Facebook has said in his aims that my aim is to expose everyone's life and it will cause many problems. Ahmadi should be careful. There was some surprising glances. People couldn't immediately understand. Yet, what do we see many years later with Facebook? The history is before you, that Facebook is beleaguered with all sorts of scandals in terms of the loss of information, government cases against them, huge loss of followers. You are all aware of this. And as I said, Hazur was saying this, again about secular matters, warning the Jamaat and warning the world. Then, Hazur, you may remember in those early days when he was talking about World War III and other things, again, some people didn't implement this because they didn't initially understand that Khalifatul Masih is guided by Allah. And he said, Hazur, that every Ahmadi should have a certain amount of rations or stock in place. This was at a time when the extreme weather wasn't anywhere near as bad as it is around the world today, as much as it is, maybe 15 years ago. And he said, not just for war, but for things like natural disasters and extreme effects, you should have a few months of stock supplies ready. Again, at that time, it didn't seem like that, on the surface, it didn't seem like that was needed. And so some people followed it, many Ahmadis did, and some people maybe thought we'll do it later. Later, even in America, we receive reports from places that Ahmadis who did do it, when extreme weather did start increasing as it has now, even in England, for the last 2 months, it's been raining so heavy, almost every other day. It's unprecedented. You've seen now here, they're saying that this extreme weather around the world is a new kind of scientific study of research. And those people who did have supplies, they hugely benefited because they had that in place. They listened to Khalifatul Masih at a time when it appeared that maybe it's not needed on the surface. There's many other such things where Hazur guided us. Now, coming down to a more communal level, I was speaking about international level, and I can speak about many things that Hazur spoke about. Some of them I spoke about yesterday. Hazur, coming down to a more individual and communal level, is that Khalifa who is absolutely selfless. He doesn't care for himself. He cares only for the people. And in fact, he doesn't even let you ask him about his health or his well-being. He always diverts it and instead wants to know about the people. I've had the opportunity, alhamdulillah, with Hazur's grace, Allah's grace, to see this in person in many places. How Hazur is truly a person of the a Khalifa of the people. There's sometimes a misconception when Hazur goes on tour. Often it may seem from the images on social media that Hazur is spending most of his time with meeting leaders or holding an event with external people where you have senior people from government and so on. However, that only makes up barely 20-30% of any tour of Hazur. By far, the vast majority of time Hazur spends, even every day, and on tour, is with ordinary people. Every day, as I mentioned, even now, just when I left, Hazur had hundreds of letters, and he multitasks. He's speaking to me or speaking to the person, and he's signing away hundreds and hundreds of letters every day to everyone to have that personal connection. Then, as I mentioned before, he's leading the 5 daily prayers, which might seem something obvious, but it's important to state because Hazur's whole life revolves around the 5 daily prayers. And I mentioned this point in a few other places, and I was positively happy that mentioning how much Hazur emphasizes on prayer, and he said himself he does the tahajjud and the nawafil at home. When I was in the UK, there was a Khilafat Day event, and I just mentioned this point about how much Hazur focuses on 5 daily prayer in his own character. Sadr Sahib mentioned as well about how much you see Hazur enthralled in his prayer, and we don't know the extent to which he does it at home. When I mentioned this in the UK in a Khilafat Day event, a khadim came to me afterwards and said, I'll be honest, I don't pray 5 times a day, pray a few times a day. But hearing this example of Hazur, I made a pledge today that I will pray 5 times a day, hearing how the Khalifa gives so much attention in his own example. Similarly, I was in Peace Village when Hazur was leaving in 2016, and I met someone from the crowd, and a khadim, again, was in his 20s. And I said, how was your experience these last 4 weeks with Hazur? He said, the one thing that's changed in me now is that I wasn't praying 5 times a day. But now coming here, seeing Hazur every day, no matter what's happening, coming for the prayer and giving so much attention, I made a pledge that I will pray 5 times a day.
Nare Takbir! Nare Takbir! Hazrat Amirul Mumineen! Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis! Inni Maka! Inni Maka! Nare Takbir!
At every single moment, Hazur's only concern is for either you, the Ahmadis, or the state of the world. And Hazur puts himself into so much difficulty, even pain, and makes so much effort to do this. I'll give you some very small examples, which are small, but I constantly repeat it everywhere Hazur does. For me, what's very unique when I'm traveling, having the opportunity to be present where Hazur is traveling, is not necessarily the events themselves. It's when Hazur is walking between the events, going from his house to the next place. And every single time Hazur does that, he's having some interaction with someone or the other. Just recently, in Jalsa Salana, United Kingdom, this was just a short time after Hazur's operation, as you know. It was a very grueling Jalsa to give 5 speeches, just such a short time after he had this heart operation. So Hazur gave 5 speeches, of course, but to our surprise, on the very first day, so myself along with someone called Ibrahim Ikhlif Saab in the UK were made in charge of overseeing all the exhibitions in the UK, in Jalsa, in terms of the floor space and everything, not just a review exhibition, not the content, but just the floor plan. So all of a sudden, we saw that Hazur's car was outside the exhibition area where there were thousands of people. This is after he had delivered the Friday sermon. He's still got four speeches left to go. And Hazur comes out. And for 45 minutes, he spends time going through all the exhibitions. And that's not just the only thing. For me, what happened is a massive crowd came around there at the time. And Hazur came out, and people were very emotional seeing Hazur, especially after his procedure. Hazur was smiling and laughing and radiant, and he would just literally look at people. Like he looked behind the door, he saw a person in the corner and said, oh, who are you? What's there? What's happening? He would go to someone else in the crowd, say, up corner, who are you? Are you that person's? Relax, people are all like getting excited. And one by one, he would keep going to different people and speaking to them and giving this time, despite the fact of such a huge schedule he had. We were tired, just, at our age, and Hazur at his age, after this procedure, giving 5 speeches, still is doing this. And then not only that, after he did this, went one by one to every exhibition, spoke to people along the way. As he was leaving, Hazur grabbed my arm and said, Amir, do you want me to go anywhere else? Is there anywhere else to see? I said, Hazur, you have given so much time. Of course, we thank you so much that you gave this much time. Then what happened, Hazur came back in his car. Suddenly, the bodyguard started pointing to me because Hazur was knocking on the window, calling me back. The back window didn't open where Hazur sits. And so Major Saab, Hazur's bodyguard, opened the window from the front. So I was speaking to Hazur from the front window to where Hazur was sitting in the back. Hazur said, are the Arabs in their marquee? I said, Hazur, yes, they're having a meeting now. He said, yes, where is it? I said, there. So Hazur pointed to his bodyguard and driver and said, go there. So I ran quickly all across the field to like trying to be Usain Bolt, to tell the Arabs that Hazur's coming. So I ran there and said, look, Hazur's about to come, get ready. Then Hazur, before he goes to the Arab marquee, decides to visit other people. He goes into the MTA complex, spends about 20 minutes speaking to all the workers, meeting them. Then he goes to the new converts marquee and starts speaking to the converts, asking about them, along the way meeting individuals. Then he goes in the Arab marquee, and the Arabs are people who are naturally expressive and emotional. They start singing hymns, and he stands there, gives them as much time as they want. And only after all of this, I don't know how long, clearly more than an hour, hour and a half, Hazur then goes back in his car after satisfying the needs of the people. He must have been in some pain. I mean, after all of this, he goes in and then goes back home. And then that might not have been captured on the cameras. You're just seeing him coming for the speeches, or maybe a small glimpse in This Week with Hazur of him coming for a few seconds. But this is what he does for the people. But this is not just unique now. Even in the last tour of USA, when Hazur was in Dallas, I remember a very unique thing which happened. Hazur, when he, those of you know who were in Dallas, I think many of you were, it's quite a long walk from Hazur's house to there, and you know that he was always kind of, interacting with people. One incident in particular was quite amazing, where what happened is, a few days into the Dallas trip, Hazur was perhaps on the way to namaz or coming back from somewhere, where he suddenly turned towards the langar khana, where food was about to be served. But he doesn't go in for an inspection or just to see it. We were walking just behind Hazur, and there, as you know, there's tables here, and Hazur has to walk through the tables. Hazur literally walks in the middle of the langar khana marquee, the middle, not going to a front table or anywhere, and says, bring a seat, let me sit here, right in the middle. The people were they were shocked, they couldn't understand. I think they didn't understand, so no one was bringing anything, and Hazur kept saying, bring it, I want to sit here. So I think they were too shocked to do it, and then Hazur said, bring the food, let's eat. Sitting there in the middle of the langar khana. People were too shocked to understand what was happening, and they weren't even serving the food. So what happened is, we saw that not all the food had come yet. There was only some food there, so Munir Ode Saab of MTA and myself, we just went to the serving station, started trying to speed things up because Hazur was waiting there. But again, this is Hazur of the people. He walks right in the middle of the langar khana, and he says, let's stand here and let's eat here in the middle of the people. The security couldn't even all reach there. There's tight tables along here. Similarly, this happened in Jalsa Salana, United Kingdom. Some of you may know that we hold various exhibitions. We held one exhibition called the Al-Qalam Project with calligrapher Rizwan Beg Sahab, which is writing one verse of the Quran to fulfill the whole Quran written by people. Anyhow, long story short, the first Al-Qalam project, we didn't really organize as well as we should have, because we didn't expect the rush of people that was coming. So people had to wait hours and hours for a turn to write the verse. At that time, it was a time of the ladies. They were doing the verse, and they had to wait hours to stand in. So what happened is, Hazur was coming out of the Tabshir marquee, where he had a dinner with some of the foreign delegations. I was way back, standing at the edge of the track where the grass is. Hazur came out, it was the evening, he saw the new moon and did the prayer of the new moon. Then he saw me from far away and said, "Kidhar hai aapki numaish, exhibition?" Because he kind of had indicated he may come. I said, "Hazur's over there." So Hazur started walking to the edge of the track, and I realized there's grass there. I didn't want Hazur to spoil his shoes, or, also there was so many people there. I said, "Hazur, yahan grass hai," I'll try to indicate, and Hazur smiled and forget it, he just walked onto the grass. Walked right into the grass, in between the middle of Jalsa, through the flags. Hazur's walking, we're all walking right towards the exhibition. So then what happened at another time like this, another time when Hazur came, and it was a ladies' time, Hazur came into the exhibition, and as I said, it was all the Lajna there. And there were many people there who had never seen Hazur. And at that time, they started all crying. They all started becoming emotional because they were so close to Hazur. It's a tight exhibition. These people are seeing Hazur maybe on the second day as Lajna, they get to see Hazur from far away. Suddenly Hazur is right there. There's a huge circle around him. The women are all crying with emotions. Hazur then goes towards where an elderly lady was writing a verse of the Quran. And Hazur stands there and stands over her and sees her do it and comments on her calligraphy. And Hazur goes. So afterwards, because we made everyone write a diary entry of their experience. So this elderly lady wrote that initially I was a bit upset and sad, and tired and exhausted. I waited hours for this opportunity and I'd been frustrated. I can never forget this day that I'm writing a verse of the Quran in the exhibition. I look up and Khalifatul Masih is standing over me and then commenting on my calligraphy and smiling. All of a sudden, those frustrations, the sadness went away and became the most ecstatic moment I could ever think. And in fact, that exhaustion was nothing for what I received in return. Khalifatul Masih, who showed me this love. This is what this lady wrote in this.
Narae Takbir! Narae Takbir! Khilafat-e Ahmadiyya! Khilafat-e Ahmadiyya! Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis! Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis! Narae Takbir!
There's so many examples like this. I just give one or two before I kind of go on to the next thing which I want to say. So this is what I'm saying. Hazur puts himself into difficulty. And he doesn't ever talk about himself. He always wants to help the people, whether it's through writing letters. So I mentioned about refugees. There's a hadith, or there's a saying in Islam, that it's not about how you behave with senior people, with people of high rank. Everyone, when someone comes, let's say someone comes who's really senior, who's a senator here, or someone who has a high rank, everyone will show respect to them, want to speak to them. The true test of a person is how they speak to the person with no rank, the person who is impoverished, there's no reason or benefit of speaking to that person. Hazur is the one I've seen who not only shows love to the people of no right and no rank, but in fact shows them more love than people of even higher rank. So I've seen across the world, even here in the United States and other countries, when Hazur is dealing with, for example, with refugees. Many times what happens is, because there's so many immigrants, Hazur has to meet them in groups. I cannot forget in Germany, when Hazur was meeting hundreds and hundreds, if not 300 refugees. This is pre-COVID. And I had the opportunity to be right near Hazur. And almost every single person, Hazur would put his hand on his shoulder or hold their hand close. And every person, they would come in the line. So it was happening in front of everyone, but every time someone came up, they were in a separate world. And Hazur would treat them as if this is a completely private thing. And each person, he would reset what he's saying in a natural way and say, okay, how are you? How is your case? What's happening? Don't worry, inshallah, I'll be fine. Do this. He gave them advice. Where are you from? Where's your family? And the person would then would be emotional and speak to him. And then the next person, Hazur would put his hand on his shoulder, say, how are you? What's happening? Where's your case going? Again and again, 100, 200, this is happening. And Hazur would keep on doing this. And this is not just in Germany, it's everywhere Hazur goes. I've seen it in many different countries where Hazur is speaking. And not only this, Hazur is giving them advice about their case. Hazur is telling them how to do their statement. Hazur is telling them how to also behave in that way. And so he's the person who not only looks at the people of high rank, but even the people who don't have any rights as such in society, he's always concerned for them and showing them love and kindness and always worried for them. This is why I remember once, going back to Jalsa UK, what happened is the first year after COVID, as you know, Hazur didn't see so many people. Nobody was coming to Islamabad. Everything was shut down. And the first COVID Jalsa, you can call it post-COVID Jalsa, was very emotional. So many people came and saw Hazur for the first time. So I noticed on many days, you might have seen on MTA, when Hazur leaves Jalsa, he goes out across the big field into that track. You know, it's like a big field. But this time, the first Jalsa after COVID, Hazur suddenly, his car is going a place where nobody really goes. It's like going right behind the Jalsa Gah, where only like utility truck goes, so tight. And then that leads on to a massive rush of people. So I noticed Hazur doing this, rolling down his window and waving at people. And I asked Hazur after Jalsa, that Hazur, I noticed that you were taking this route. You kept taking this route. He said, yes, because I wanted to see the people. I put the window down so they could see me and I can see them. And this is why even here in America, here in Maryland, you know that Hazur kept walking on that long walk to the mosque. and he was interacting with people. You may remember that on 2-3 days it rained very heavy, and when he came out, the security detail requested if he can go through the mosque. Afterwards, Hazur was a bit disappointed. He didn't want to go through the mosque. He wanted to quickly go back outside on this walk so he could see the people and the people could see him. Because this is the Hazur who is the Khalifa of the people and is always wanting to connect with his followers at all times. So, there's many different stories like this. I mentioned some small incidents in the inspection, but there were very few people. I would like to, in my second or third last point, just mention those examples. I mentioned that one of the greatest qualities of Hazur is the fact that he does all of this, yet is so selfless. He never takes credit, and he is the person of utmost humility. He is a person of great simplicity, so he's a person of few words of advice, but those words have profound meaning and effect. So I mentioned before that although in the inspection, but there were few people, so I'll repeat one or two things here. Although Hazur is, has many staff, but that doesn't mean that all the work is done for him. Hazur does the Friday sermon every week, but Hazur writes it himself in the sense that he does the research and everything. Of course, he has people that he asks to maybe pull out references, but Hazur showed me himself. He said, look, behind me, these are all the books of the references that I use myself. And even if I get a reference from someone, I'll check it myself. He does all of it and puts the topics down and everything. And Hazur once told me, as some of you may know, I'm involved in the translation. When I first became a translator, he said, just keep in mind that I won't be giving you any notes. As a translator, we don't get any notes. And he said the reason why is that even the private secretary doesn't know exactly what I'm going to say. Because I have all the different material, until the last minute I'm deciding what to say from where. So Hazur is getting that all together himself. Also, in terms of what I'm saying, that sometimes Hazur does things so that other people can get blessings by serving him. It doesn't mean that Hazur doesn't do it himself. In fact, many things he does do himself. I mentioned on the inspection day that I walked into Hazur's office once, and he had a duster, a brush, and he was cleaning his desk. And the way he was cleaning his desk was as if it was so normal, and he had done it many times before. And I, of course, being the servant of Hazur, I'm seeing Hazur clean his desk with a duster. I said, Hazur, please let me do it. Hazur just like, no, sit down, you know. So I had to sit there, watch Hazur clean his desk. And Hazur said that, you know, I don't like when my things are moved around, so I normally don't even let my staff always touch it, and I sometimes clean it myself. And I mentioned as well, and I mentioned again, on another occasion, I walked into Hazur's office. Many of you have been to Islamabad, and as soon as I sat down, I was surprised that Hazur suddenly got up. So I got up, and he walked all the way to the back of the office, and he went to the ventilation unit, and he said, Amir, would you prefer it hotter or colder? I said, Hazur, I prefer it however you want it. But this is Hazur's level of humility. The number of times Hazur suddenly got up, went to the side, poured a bottle of water, and I'm saying, Hazur, no, just sit down, like as if it's just normal. So it means that he allows other people to do it for blessings in other places, but he's very comfortable and he does do it himself. Similarly, in Canada, Hazur had a meeting with very senior people in, I think, Regina or Lloydminster. There were people of the local parliament, and there were some national secretaries, and we were in a small room. And that area, of those of you who know Canada, is a massive area of farmland, which is of interest to Hazur. And so when Hazur was asking detailed questions about farming or crops and techniques, they were blown away. And they kept, suddenly one of the very senior ministers sitting next to Hazur said, do you know about farming? And Hazur said, just not much, I just wanted to ask a few questions. So as soon as Hazur left, I went to that minister and said, by the way, our Khalifa has done a master's in agriculture. He has a lot of knowledge in farming. And he remarked that that's amazing humility, that I was seeing that he knows so much knowledge, but Hazur never shows or credits anything to himself. He always deflects credit, and he always develops a selfless kind of behavior. Now, all of these things I'm saying are all well and good. But there is one question that may come into your mind. I can give you countless examples of Hazur's character, how he shows to people, and many other people can also relate these examples. But there's one thing that is said, that a true test of character of a person is how they behave at home. remember that they say that half of the narrations of the Holy Prophet ﷺ were from Hazrat Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. We have many accounts from the family of the Holy Prophet which tell us about his life. Similarly with the promised Messiah. What about Hazur? How is he at home? Hazur himself once said, you may remember, that any person can go outside their house and show a certain character and come at home and be cruel to their family and children. So what can we learn about Hazur from his life behind four walls, which none of us see? Some of his family members have done a huge favor for us in this light. And I come towards the end with this. There's an interview that we published, that was published before in Urdu, but we translated, with the blessed wife of Hazur, Hazrat Begum Sahiba. She gives some insight into how Hazur is at home. She mentions that we were in Ghana in 1977. Hazur was appointed to Ghana. And in Ghana, it was very difficult circumstances. To get water, you had to travel a long distance, miles, and carry on a water tanker. Under the Nusra Jahan scheme, Hazur was appointed the principal. But Hazrat Begum Sahiba notes again the selfless nature of Hazur and his humility. She writes that despite Hazur's vast responsibilities at the time, he would always take care of me and the children to the best of his ability. She said, I observed in certain households, they make certain demands of their wife. Make this at food time, make this. But Hazur never ever did that, despite us being in such circumstances where not everything wasn't available. Similarly, Hazur would carry out all the household chores. He would even collect water and bring it from outside. Hazur would fill up the water tanks outside after every morning prayer. No matter how urgent his work, he never said to me that he was busy, or I should fulfill this myself. Whenever I fell ill, he would take up the responsibility of cooking for us. He would actively support me in teaching the children the Holy Quran. So I mentioned many incidents, and we mentioned many incidents of how other people wrote to Hazur for acceptance of prayers. But what about Hazur himself in his own life? An incident happened in Ghana, which Hazrat Begum Sahiba relates. In Ghana, Hazur's son fell extremely ill, almost life-threatening circumstances. There were no doctors nearby, and those that were available were very inadequate in medical facilities. On top of that, the doctors were on strike. So, Hazrat Begum Sahiba said, we had some medicine from Pakistan, but it was so strong that a doctor there would never ever prescribe it, for fearing that it could be life-threatening to the patient to take strong potency of medicine. But that's all they had. They had nothing else. And they couldn't recourse to any medical help at the time for the reasons I mentioned. Hazur, placing his complete trust in God and supplicating to him, dipped the finger of his right hand into the medicine and gave it to his son twice, who at the time was extremely weak and not drinking milk. Hazur said, no one could know what Allah's decree was, yet this regret will not remain that a cure was untried. Within a few minutes, she says, our son, health improved. God Almighty miraculously cured him. Alhamdulillah, all praise belongs to Allah. She concludes by saying that Hazur would always help me whenever the children fell ill. During meetings, he would even wash feeding bottles himself. But this is before Khilafat. What about after Khilafat? After Khilafat, Hazrat Begum Sahiba, the blessed wife of Hazur, says that once I became extremely ill after Hazur became the Khalifa. I was suffering from severe migraine. Hazur first prepared the breakfast for me. And then after making his own breakfast, he went to the office. Even now, despite his extremely busy schedule, he still managed to plant flowers, prune the plants, and do other tasks. Similarly, Hazur's granddaughter has written something which very few people, I believe, have read. She writes that something very unique. Every week in the Friday sermon, we see Hazur coming in and then he leaves. He goes back home. But we don't know after this the accounts of what happens. She has related one such account, Hazur's granddaughter, that in the days of COVID, Hazur walks back into his house. Hazur's granddaughter is with Hazur the moment he comes in at the foot of the stairs. She relates that Hazur walks very fast. So as he climbed the stairs, she was breathless trying to catch up with Hazur. They were looking through the window over to Islamabad where many people were walking. She relates that this is very thought-provoking for me, even being the granddaughter, that after the Friday prayers, after he's going back and he could relax and have food or whatever, he's looking out the window to the Ahmadis passing by. This is in the days of Corona. And his only thought is that I wish that those days come again, that we can pray together, that I can pray together with these Ahmadis passing by, because Hazur has prevented them. So even in the house, Hazur is having these thoughts as he has outside the house.
नारे तकबीर नारे तकबीर खिलाफत अहमदिया हजरत खलीफतुल मसीह खामिस नारे तकबीर.
She writes something interesting, which I think is beautiful. She said, I realized something that day. Hazur's granddaughter. Hazur loves us even when we are not looking. Our Khalifa, after the khutbah sermon, is the same Khalifa we see whilst it is being delivered. The same one who still thinks about us once we finish our congregational prayers and turn off MTA. And one more thing that she says I would like to relate is, she says, again, like I said before, the true test of a character is a person, how they behave at home. And she said, I can testify that Hazur is exactly the same at home with us as he is with all the Ahmadis outside. We learnt about Islam through seeing Hazur. She says that I'm not speaking about international events of World War and so on, but small things in the home which show the character of the person. And she says, I say this because at home, when you're outside, you could have cameras, she says. You could have other things that people can say is being done for this. At home, everyone knows when you're at home, you can't hide your personality from your family. Nothing is being recorded. You know that. So whatever you do has to be genuine. So she says that Hazur's humility is a silent humility. I see this humility when he wipes things off the floor that nobody has seen or bothered to clean. I see this when he washes the fruit that arrives at the door. I see this when he silently picks up vegetables from the garden. I see this when he lifts heavy bags or cleans out the vacuum or the hoover. Hazur, of course, speaks out about injustice. He speaks out about cruelties and so on. But Hazur also speaks about these things at the dinner table at home. He speaks about these injustices outside, inside, as he does outside. Yet, even inside the home, whenever we try to ask Hazur about his personal pain, he never complains. He never expresses his suffering. And he smiles and says, Alhamdulillah, I am okay. So, what I will say is that, as I have made clear, that we have this beautiful example of Khalifatul Masih for us to follow. Many of you may have seen Hazur, many of you have not seen Hazur, and I thought that would be useful to give a bit of insight to Hazur's character very briefly from an international level to a local level to within the home as well, which is very important, as you know. I'll end by just saying that, Alhamdulillah, as was mentioned, we had a very good attendance at the Ijtema this year. So, when I met Hazur just before leaving, I mentioned to Hazur that generally speaking, of course, the majority of people here in the United States make efforts to try and reach out to the youth. And Alhamdulillah, the current Sadr Sahib is making a lot of efforts, and I believe he has visited every region in the country to try and connect with people. There are sometimes occasionally people who have a defeatist mentality and sometimes say even here that we can't do anything now, or everyone is like this now and we've lost the battle and so on and so forth. And I said, Hazur, what do you feel about this if this is said by some people in America? Again, Hazur was so calm. He was so relaxed and he smiled. Hazur said, I don't believe this. If they believe that, that's on them. But I don't believe this. It may be a small percentage of people are like this, but the majority are not. And Hazur sees hope in the Khuddam of America, and he sees that they can lead a spiritual revolution, as he has said many times. I then said to Hazur, I'm just trying to pull up my notes quickly so I don't say the wrong thing. Yes. So I said, Hazur, and this is true. Hazur said also mention yourself. You went all around the country. In 2016, Hazur sent a letter to the Sadr Khuddam at the time, and I had to speak to Khuddam all across the country. And when I came back, I said this to Hazur. I see many good Khuddam. I see many people who were coming. Even now, we met many Khuddam who came to the Ijtema for the first time. Hazur said that never ever say that a khadim is inactive. Never ever say that Khuddam is inactive. They have even if they have 0.001% of something of understanding of Ahmadiyyat in the vein, if they are not activated, it is the laziness and slackness of the office holders or the Nizam to activate them. And we saw this. There was a big push for this Ijtema. Sadr Sahib went across the whole country. Many regions who told me they went across the country. Of course, more efforts have to be made. And we saw an increase in attendance. And I saw many Khuddam here of this nature as well. I then asked Hazur, and I was asked this question by some Khuddam, I envisaged, that sometimes, it could be even a few cases, that if we feel aggrieved, or we feel an office holder is treating us unjustly, or is being harsh to us, if a Khadim asks me this, what shall I say to them? Hazur's answer was very interesting to me. Hazur said, first of all tell them, कि उन्होंने उहदेदारान की बैत नहीं की. They have not done the bet of the office holders. Their bet ultimately was Allah through Khalifatul Masih. So that's the first thing they should remember. Secondly, Hazur said something very interesting and beautiful, that sometimes Allah puts people into trial, even if they are in difficulty or they are feeling like they are facing some type of unfairness. And those trials are extremely important to ultimately receive the blessings that they will receive. I then also asked Hazur that especially there are many Khuddam here at Atfal who are going to college, community colleges, universities, and often they say it is very difficult. The environment there is quite cutthroat. Everything is around you, and how does a Khadim deal with this? So Hazur said that what you have to do, if I can, Hazur said there's three things. Number one, let's say a person unfortunately falls to an inappropriate type of act that they shouldn't be doing Islamically. Hazur said the first thing that a person should do is to develop a complete determination to stay away from that act, whatever it might be. If it relates to relationships, then you have to act determinedly, absolute willpower. Willpower being to the extreme, that you will, for example, act on the commandment of lowering your gaze. Number two, Hazur said that you have to at least even initially acknowledge that something is wrong and that this act is bad. And you have to hate it so much to never go near it and then show that determination. Thirdly, Hazur said, increase your love for Allah, the Almighty, so it supersedes all other loves in the world. Love for other things we have. And develop istighfar. Istighfar is a very powerful tool, and many of you know that Hazur has told us about certain prayers that we should be reciting many times. Then Hazur said something that in these places like universities and colleges, he said create muakhat, create brotherhoods, form teams. In the UK they have done this very successfully as well, where they have paired up one Khuddam with the other, one tifl or the other, just like in the time of the companions of the Holy Prophet, and they support each other and help each other. Hazur said create here in the USA these muakhat and brotherhoods, combine people together. So this is one other thing that he said, to try and activate people, and he said benefit from student associations and things like this. So alhamdulillah, Hazur sees hope in the Khuddam of America. Hazur, as I mentioned, that some people say that perhaps, there's not much we can do now, etc. There are only a minority who say this. But Hazur was so relaxed, as I said. Hazur was so loving in his reply and smiled, as if he sees so much hope for everyone to do the right thing. So in terms of fulfilling the pledges, I've mentioned a bit about how selfless Hazur is. I've mentioned a little bit about some of the guidance Hazur has said. I hope and pray that I have discharged my responsibility to not convey any of my knowledge, but convey some guidance of Khalifatul Masih. So if we leave with a pledge today, one of the pledges should be that we will hold fast to this great blessing that Allah the Almighty has given to us, this rope, who guides us at every step, who when the world is going in one direction, He stands firm, even if He has to be alone, and says, no, this is the right direction by Allah, who puts Himself in pain despite suffering illnesses, going through procedures, and still only considers everyone else, who is the same inside His house as He is outside the house, who is dealing with international problems, yet still dealing with the person without the right and giving him the same attention, if not more. This is our Khalifatul Masih, the selfless Khalifa, the Khalifa of the people. So let us make a pledge that we will always adhere to every word of his, that we will always follow everything he says, especially the message which you saw on the screen as well. May Allah the Almighty enable us to do this and give us the ability to do this. Jazakumullah khairan.
नाराए तकबीर हज़रत मोहम्मद मुस्तफ़ा गुलाम अहमद की इस्लाम अहमदियत जमात अहमदिया आलमगीर खिलाफत अहमदिया जमात अहमदिया USA मजलिस खुदामुल अहमदिया USA मजलिस अत्फालुल अहमदिया USA हज़रत खलीफतुल मसीहिल खामिस इन्नी माँ का नारे तकबीर.
We will now do dua or silent prayer. I'll request respected Naib Amir Sahib to lead us in silent prayer.
Please join me in dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ameen.
नारे तकबीर नारे तकबीर. मजलिस खुदामुल अहमदिया USA वाक़फ़ीने ज़िंदगी नारे तकबीर.